What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another segment of HR Heretics. Today, Kelli is with her family. Our prayers are going up for her. Kelli, I love you. I'm thinking about you. I hope all of you are also sending love and prayers over to Kelli and her family. Today, we're going to try something a little bit different without Kelli. I'm going to give a solo rundown of something that I think has caught a lot of steam recently. And this is around working styles in Silicon Valley, specifically with early stage founders. So Kelli and I have discussed a couple times on the show 996, which means 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. And it kind of started in China, and now we're seeing a lot of this behavior filter into early stage tech companies in Silicon Valley. So I've been thinking about this for probably like the last 6 to 12 months, and it just keeps coming up. But I thought Glen Evans, who leads talent at Greylock, he was a recruiting leader at Facebook. Glen's kind of he's a legend in the Valley. I thought he hit it perfectly with his post on LinkedIn last week. So I'm going to read that to you right now. He said, over my entire career, and especially in my years at Greylock, I've seen many waves in tech and hiring trends. Lately, I've noticed a new one. Founders proudly and publicly promoting 6 day plus grind, sleeping in the office, and treating the hustle lifestyle as a badge of honor. At first, it felt short-sighted. In a market where top talent has options, leading with potential burnout doesn't exactly feel like a winning strategy. And I also realized that this is exactly the kind of environment some people want and isn't for everyone. But the more I sat with it, the more I saw the nuance. After the pandemic, startups and companies swung hard toward remote work, flexibility, and autonomy. Now the pendulum seems to be swinging back, maybe too far for some, toward an in-person intensity and all hours work as the new sign of commitment. Historically, all successful tech companies did start this way with an around-the-clock work environment. Teams gave up nights, weekends, and personal time to build something exceptional. That level of commitment can be key to building an outlier business. And you need to make sure hires at this stage are up for the journey and work cadence. But here's the problem. It's being marketed today in a way that feels misaligned to what an inspiring leader or company should do. Some founders act as if raising money from top tier VCs means talent will just show up and chase them. They'll post statements reflecting "we work weekends" as a badge of pride and push the idea that others they hire will do the same. That's not how you attract all the best people or stand out. In reality, this mandated approach likely narrows reach and turns away great people before they've had a chance to be won over. Sure, some of this creates an intentional filter for those all in on the lifestyle, but messaging matters. You don't inspire great people by telling them how hard they'll work. You inspire them by being someone worth following. People go the extra mile when they believe in the mission and, more importantly, the person leading it. There's a big difference between building a culture of intensity around a shared purpose versus broadcasting a grinded out lifestyle. One builds buy-in, the other, it just sounds tone deaf. If you want people to lean into the work, give them something meaningful to lean into with clear goals, a compelling product, career growth, ownership, and most of all, be the kind of leader who earns their trust. Yes, there is a talent pool that might want this cadence without question. But don't forget the true 10Xers often get more done by working smarter and more efficiently. Turning them away before inspiring them to believe and go the extra mile is short-sighted. I'm not anti-grind, I'm just pro-intentionality, because great teams aren't built on hustle alone, they're built on belief. So I think Glen nailed that. And I think he said it better than I ever could, but I do have a couple of things that I wanted to add. The first is, I think right now with these, it's primarily early stage founders where this is showing up. And I would say younger early stage founders. But before you discount that, these are people that tend to change the world, right? Larry and Sergey were, building at Stanford. Steve Jobs and Wozniak were out of their garage in Palo Alto. These were all like kids at the time, and now they're these idols in the Valley. One of the things that I have learned as I've gotten older is I used to hate when people used ageism against me when I was young. Like, oh, like Nolan's too young for that. He hasn't had enough experience for that yet. And so, now that I am starting to age a little bit myself, I am trying to be extremely cognizant of not saying like, oh, well, they're young, they'll figure it out. Now, experience is life's best teacher. We all know that. But these are the people that are going to be changing the world and that are going to be building the future tech companies of which all of us now operate. So the first thing I want to talk about is it true that more hours equals more productivity? Because that's the underlying thing here that these founders are getting at is like, well, in order to reap the rewards, you have to put in the time. And I'll say this, there is no substitute for time. You must put the time in, regardless of anything you do. If you ask Roger Federer or Serena Williams or Tiger Woods or any of the amazing world-class Mount Rushmore professional athletes, they will all tell you they thought about it at all hours of the day. They worked on it, they practiced, they dreamed about it. It just never ended for them. And in the world that we live in with careers, we have been sold a box. Like the career is in this box, your life is in this box here, and we try and have these, these ridges between them to where work doesn't spill into life. One of my takes is I think that's actually like the fastest way to unhappiness. I tried to live that way for a very long time, and it just didn't work. And it turns out the thing that worked for me may not work for you, but the thing that worked for me was actually like leaning into the things that I enjoyed about work and not feeling guilty about those things. And then also figuring out my priorities. And this is the thing that I don't think people are talking about. When we're talking about the amount of hours, I think if you're like, under 27, 28, this is exactly what you should be doing. I did it. It worked for me. A lot of people do this and it works for them. And when you go all in, there's a couple of benefits that you can get. One is that you're building these super deep relationships. Another is that ultimately, when you reflect back on those moments and how crazy they were, for me, it was at DoorDash. And we were putting in a lot of hours. And at the time, I was like constantly exhausted, right? Like basically on Caltrain. And then like, it was kind of like a blur of a day, like in the office. And then after my third coffee, I'd finally like rev it up. Then I'd be like back on Caltrain, home at like 10, working until 1, and then up and doing it again the next day. And it, like at the time, it was nuts. And it sounds nuts to recite it back today, but it's some of my fondest memories. I built these amazing relationships with people. I grew faster in my career than I otherwise would have. I had a ton of fun. And so the thing I think about now is that I no longer can do that because of my life priorities. I have a wife, I have kids, I have friends, I have family. Like these are now people that I am going to prioritize and they are going to get my time. But when I was 26, I prioritized DoorDash over my wife. That's how it was. I think every person at that time who was OG and successful did. And that was okay. Like that was a trade-off that I was willing to make at that time because we were on it. It was like no other place would have given me that amount of responsibility, that amount of autonomy and ownership. And so I wanted to go all in. It was a choice I was making consciously. And I think a lot of people, when they hear 996 or, founders like, essentially requiring 70-hour work weeks, they immediately go, oh, they don't get it, right? They don't understand what's going on there. And for me, I'm kind of like, I actually really appreciate that these founders are being real about what it's like to work at these companies today. It doesn't mean 5 years from now, after they achieve true depth in product market fit, that they have significant revenue, that they need to start really scaling, their teams and their operations, that they can't change. They can totally change. That happened at DoorDash. We matured as an organization. But I do think there is something around this notion of, being early and needing to put time in that is true. And so I'm just happy that these founders are actually being honest about it when they speak to candidates.
Hey everyone, we'll be right back in a moment after a word from our sponsors. Your workforce is your organization's greatest strength and often its largest single expense. But without the right tools, understanding where your workforce spend is going or how it impacts your bottom line can be a challenge. That's where Planful comes in. With Planful, HR and finance teams get the clarity they need to make smarter workforce decisions, gain real-time visibility into workforce fluctuations, forecast with confidence, and adjust talent acquisition plans collaboratively based on costs today and into the future. No more guesswork, just data-driven insights to help you plan with accuracy. And the best part, Planful is fast and easy to implement, so you can be up and running in weeks, not months, with minimal IT support. Plus, as your company grows, Planful grows with you, providing endless runway for strategic workforce planning at any scale. Ready to take your workforce planning to the next level? Join over 1,500 organizations already using Planful. Visit planful.com/heretics to learn more.
I must admit, I used to believe that AI didn't actually exist in recruiting or HR. That is until my friend Heather Doche, who leads talent at Signalfire, told me to check out Metaview. I got into the product and was like, wow, AI actually does exist in recruiting, and this product is sick. Metaview is the world's #1 AI scribe built specifically for recruiting. Their AI records and transcribes hiring conversations, like intakes, interviews, and debriefs, then provides perfectly summarized notes of everything that was discussed. I've seen firsthand how tough it can be to extract consistently high-quality data from candidate conversations. I've been in debriefs where interviewers told us about their feelings instead of what actually happened in the interview. And I've seen VPs and CEOs block hires because they didn't learn anything from skeleton scorecards. Metaview changes everything. With perfect notes from every conversation, your people can focus on creating a human connection with candidates, and they can save time on the busy work of cleaning up notes after every interview. But it's so much more than just a time saver, because perfect notes means perfect data. For every candidate and every pipeline, hiring teams can make confident, informed decisions, and talent leaders can finally take control of the interview process. Metaview covers all your compliance needs, works with all your existing tools, and takes less than 3 minutes to set up. Join talent leaders at organizations like Brex, Deal, HelloFresh, and Quora, and check out Metaview. Head over to metaview.ai/heretics to talk to one of Metaview's product experts. Tell them that me and Kelli sent you. Or you could just go to their website and get started for free. You'll be up, running, and AI-enabled in minutes. Second point I want to make is a story. And so I met these two 24-year-old founders about 6 weeks ago. They raised $4 million seed round from like tier 1 VCs. And these kids are killers. Like, they are super smart, super well-spoken. They have Riz. I just enjoyed these guys a lot in our 45-minute conversation. And they're trying to hire a head of engineering. And so, they start talking to me about like what they're optimizing for. The company right now is 12 people. They are early to product market fit. I think we all think that they have it, but can't quite tell yet. And so they're going to start scaling engineering. They're going to hire, call it like 5 to 7 more engineers. And so when they were describing to me the head of engineering that they were optimized for, they're like, well, I want somebody who's managed 40 people, who's worked on an analogous product, right? And kind of like going through like, all these things, which would make you feel like, well, this is somebody who's had to have been around the block and likely has some gray hair. And I took a step back and I told them, I was like, guys, you know who you don't want to hire for this role? You don't want to hire me, because I'm 36. I have a wife and a kids that I'm constantly going to prioritize above this company. You need somebody who actually looked more like me at 26, who could continue to scale, who could continue to learn and grow, and maybe you supplement their current talent with somebody on the outside who can help grow them or coach them or fill out their gaps, whatever it may be. But it brought this realization to me as they were saying, like, they wanted all these things. And oh, by the way, they wanted 996 and in person and all the same stuff that we're all hearing. And I was just like, I'm too old for that now. And that's okay. Like, it's just okay to say that I am too old for that now. I don't want to do that again. Some of us are allowed to say that. Actually, all of us are allowed to say that. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But that also has a trade-off, which is I will not be part of another one of these super early stage companies that is high flying, that is, grind it out at all costs because I'm choosing other things in my life. And I just think we're in this mode right now with social media and the way that we interact with people that we want to project how we live our lives onto other people. And I just don't think that's a successful way of doing business. In fact, like I admire these guys. I'm like, damn, like I kind of miss those days. Like it's fun. It's like, and you start talking to yourself a little bit, and you're like, no, no, no. Like this 6-year-old boy who wants to play catch with me every night is going to get my priority over these guys for sure. But at the same time, both things can work. For me, I can be home every night and eating dinner with my family. And, last night was my daughter's 5th birthday and like doing birthday cake and not worried about like the green dot culture for Slack. And these guys can also be in the office until 1 o'clock in the morning, grinding it out, building a company, building relationships, and, candidly creating stories that they're going to tell like the way that I'm telling them today. And so it brings me to my final point, which is, are you willing to accept the trade-off? This is life. I say it all the time. Life is a series of trade-offs. So one last story for you guys. I was connected to one of the fastest growing companies right now. Everyone's heard this company's name. They're building in person in San Francisco. Recruiting is their number one problem. One of my friends reaches out and says, hey, like, will you talk to these guys? Like, they need help with recruiting really bad. I'm like, hell yeah, this is on Easter. And so I literally respond on Easter. I'm like, hey, I can jump on tonight. I can jump on tomorrow. I didn't have anything going on those evenings. And I just knew like this is one of those companies that's going to appreciate somebody who's willing to lean in and understand how they operate. So the founder gets back and is basically like, hey, you're the perfect candidate. I want to hire you for my head of talent. And I was like, hey, I'm flattered. There's not a world in which I'm taking that job, but I can help you hire somebody better than me, and introduce you to my network, whatever it is. And the founder got back and was like, well, just let me know next time you're in San Francisco and then we can catch up. And I was like, okay, it's going to probably be like 6 to 8 weeks. And he's like, yeah, no worries. And so I had a little bit of like judgment against him of like, is recruiting really your biggest problem? If like, you don't want to talk about it at all? Like, okay, maybe not. But I do appreciate people who just willingly accept those trade-offs. Like, we only want to build in person. We only want to meet people in person. All I'm optimized for is this thing right now. And so the more I sat with it, the more that I really appreciated this person's focus. And, I think a few years ago, I would have been like, what a dumbass. And projecting like my desires and the way I would do things onto this person. But the other piece is, humans need to feel pain in order to grow. And so there's two pieces that might be true here. One is that he's right, and that, by not talking to me, he might find the answer faster because he's focused. The other piece that could be true is that maybe he's wrong. And the way that he's going to figure out that he's wrong is to experience some pain. And I've said this on the show a few times. My daughter is this way. I'm this way. Like rules are invented by people. And I think personalities like us tend to like step on the line and see where the line is and to continue to test it. And that's generally a good thing. Like that is essentially what tech has done for the last 3 decades. That is how we got the iPhone, right? That is how we've gotten these amazing products that we use every single day. Is like founders are just stepping on these lines and seeing how far the boundary goes. And so my message to you guys today is like, whether you like 996, whether you hate it, you probably hate it if you listen to this show. It's cool. Like, just expect that these founders are being honest with us about what their culture is actually like. And let's hold the bar to saying like, actually, like if you can show me a mirror, I can say, hey, I appreciate you. So let me know your feedback on this solo episode. It sucks doing without Kelli. It's not the same without her. I'm thinking about you, KD. I love you. See you guys soon. HR Heretics is a podcast from Turpentine, the network behind Econ 102, Moment of Zen, and Turpentine VC. Subscribe, 5 stars, share it on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts, all the things.